What's up, everyone? It's the Nomad Brad, and in this video, we're going to talk about how to work online and travel the world as a virtual assistant. My guest in this interview is Esther Inman from 90dayva.com. She has taught thousands of people at this point how to get a career working online or working from home as a virtual assistant. And if you're anything like me, you may have some huge misconceptions about the career path of being a virtual assistant, how difficult it is, who it's actually a good fit for, how lucrative it is. That was probably the most shocking thing for me, is to learn that it's actually quite a lucrative career path that pretty much anybody can get into. And so we talk about, who it's a good fit for, how to get started, and how to really make a good earning, good career, and build the type of business that you can really run from anywhere, no matter how much time you have, or even if you don't have, all the skill sets, how to learn them, etc. Also, Esther is just a really cool person. She's got a great personality. She, is busy running her very successful business, helping other people, and also, basically running an agency of VAs, and she's been doing the work herself for many years. So she really is a world expert on the topic, and I really enjoyed our conversation, getting to explore a career path that I didn't know a lot about, and I'm really a lot more interested in, and I think it will be a really helpful thing for people in the online marketing, online entrepreneurship, digital nomad space to learn about what exactly do virtual assistants do, how much money do they make, what are the requirements, and stuff like that. I also think Esther has some really modern and forward-thinking philosophies about things like parenting while traveling full-time, and just generally about the sort of digital nomad lifestyle of long-term travel and working online. I'm really excited about this interview, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. So enjoy the conversation that I had with Esther Inman. If you want to get in touch with her, you can go to 90dayva.com, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can check below this video for links to Esther's social media. If you want to learn from her, there's some links. Enjoy the interview. If you have any questions for me or for Esther, I can see if I can pass those along, but just ask them in the comments below the video. If you're listening to the podcast, then you can go to www.thenomadbrad.com/podcast, and you can find some of Esther's links there as well. So without any further ado, enjoy the interview with Esther Inman. Welcome everybody to the podcast, and welcome our guest, Esther Inman. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Esther.
Yeah, I'm stoked. It's going to be so fun.
Yeah, I'm super excited too, because I think you talk about something that not many people cover, and you do it very successfully. You've built a really cool business around it and a community. So before we get into that, though, I have a really personal question. What is it like being a young woman named Esther?
Oh, man. When I was younger, I always wanted to change my name, actually, because Esther sounds like a grandma. Everybody's always like, if they say, "Oh, Esther, that's such a beautiful, unique name." And then always, I had like a great aunt, or like a super old neighbor, or like a grandma. Somebody always super old. But I will say, once I moved into like marketing my own business and using my name, it really stands out and like gets people's attention because it's so different. So it's fine. I got used to it. I've embraced it. And she was also a really, really strong female in history. So I'm like, yeah.
Which really strong female? I'm sorry.
Esther, Queen Esther. She's
Oh,
in the Old
Queen
Testament
Esther.
in Jewish history.
Oh,
Yeah, she's like super
okay.
badass.
I was thinking like,
so like,
okay.
I'll take that.
Yeah. Yeah, I asked that because my brother-in-law is named Bob, and he's 30, so his whole life has been like, people are just shocked that his name is Bob, not Robbie or Bobby, or yeah.
No, I'm only like 3-year-old. Hey, Bob, that's fine.
Yeah, it is fun. So awesome. I was very curious about that. So let's talk a little bit about what you do and what you help other people to do, because I think it's a really unique business that I hadn't really heard much about until I started looking into you.
Yeah, so I think that there's a lot of misconceptions around it. I started working online about 7 years ago, and I started as a virtual assistant. And I think when people think of virtual assistants, they think of like working, I'm going to hire someone for, $2 an hour from like India or Africa. But I worked as a virtual assistant. I made at least 20 per hour, and this was 7 years ago. I quickly went up to 30 US, this is all in US dollars per hour. That's paid really well, and I got to work from home, and I had flex time, and it was really amazing. And what happened was nobody knew about it. I had so much work. I was booked out in like a month. I think 2 months actually. I was completely booked out. And then I was being referred so much that I was already working like more than 40 hours a week. And I was like, I don't have anyone to refer this work to. And I was like a mom, like I don't have time to do all this. So I was like, hey, friend, do you want to like take on some work from home? She's a mom. She's trying to make an income from home. She's like trying to sell crap to her friends to make money. And like, that's not going anywhere. And it's like, you could be a virtual assistant. She's like, I don't know what that is. I'm like, no, you're just like posting to social media and you do this. And like, no, that sounds weird. So nobody knew how to do this stuff. Nobody even knew what a VA or virtual assistant was. So I just started like mentoring some women in my community. I started with some local moms that were military wives, because I was a military wife at the time, mentoring them, having them do internship stuff. And then I started referring them work. And it just kind of kept expanding. And they were like, you got to do this for more people. This changed my life. This is amazing. And so now I have a full-blown course that I've been running for several years. We have over 1,500 students that have been enrolled. And large majority of those students, people who've completed the course and applied for the jobs that we provide our students, are working online now, completely internationally and all around the world. So we got digital nomads, we have people from Indonesia, we have people in South America, Europe, all over America, military spouses that are like overseas. It's amazing. And all these people are able to earn a real income paid by the hour or the project or even on salary from home consistently. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. You're kind of building a machine because something that I really love about that you've talked about a lot is that you're actually proud of the fact that not that many people finish your course.
Yeah.
And can
Like
you
I think
talk about why that is?
a completion rate is average, I would say between 30 to 50%, because our students are getting jobs and getting work so quickly. Every single day, we have a Facebook group for our students. Every day somebody is posting that they got a job. Some of them are like, I've only been in the course for a few weeks. I haven't even finished everything. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm like, all right, skip to the getting work modules, because like you're ready. It's happening. So
That's so
there is
cool.
so much work out there. And I just felt like people needed a way to like learn the skills required, how to find the jobs, and then what to do when you get one. So I kind of like bridge the gap between the two. And it's, in the end, it's helped a lot of people with kids that couldn't work because the daycare expenses were more than what they're making, people who have chronic illnesses and need to just work a little bit throughout the day, people who have a sick family member that they need to be home with, people that are in a third world country and they're able to earn money in American dollars and they've completely like changed their family's lives. So it's had this crazy, amazing global effect just from helping people to be able to work from home and helping business owners find help with their business. That was it.
Do you think that, like, can somebody start from zero with this kind of work? Or is it like, I guess, is there a pattern of the type of people who are really successful as a virtual assistant? Are they like tech savvy, or are they kind of creative types, or are they really organized?
I actually say that all the skills are learnable. So
Okay.
plenty of our students come in with zero experience in anything. That's the whole point of joining the course. A lot of them will say like, I'm not tech savvy. I don't know anything. I'm like, well, that's why you're joining the class.
Yeah.
That's what it's for. And so they'll join and like learn all the skills. But I can tell you that it's more of the soft skills and the personal things that make people successful is someone who's self-directed, who is organized, and who it's kind of like training your mind to not be so reactive and to be more in a problem solving mode, and to not always be like, oh, well, my kid's sick today, so I guess I can't get my work done. Like, that's not kind of how it's work. You better figure out someone to watch them for you so that you can get some stuff done, or you're going to be staying up late. So it's like kind of transitioning from an employee mindset of like, I just go in and punch in and do my work and then go home. Like, it's not like that. You have to have a mindset of, I got to get this stuff done. But it's also really freeing, because the more you work, the more money you make. So you can work like tons, like I did. I just worked as much as I possibly could. I loved it, because you just get to break in all the dollars instead of like, oh, I can only work these many hours per day because that's when I have childcare or that's when they're open or whatever.
Are most of the jobs in virtual assisting, are you already working for like established, successful business owners, or is it more like
All over
personal
the board.
assistant sort of stuff?
all over the board. Some people get started doing more personal assistant things, but that's more rare. Typically somebody who can afford to pay our minimum for that our VAs will accept, even the ones that are in third world countries, is $15 per hour. So the jobs that get posted to my community, at least one per day from my like network, are minimum 15 per hour. Typically they go between 20 and 25 starting. And what was your question again?
Um, what was it?
Dang
I
it.
was asking about like, do they usually work for established business owners?
Okay, yeah. So that somebody who can afford to pay that amount has to be like kind of at least middle of the road,
Yeah.
but they also might just hire somebody for like 2 to 3 hours a week, and
Okay.
they're still maybe just
For a
in the
specific
first
skill set?
year or two. Sorry?
For a specific skill set, like they might say like, no? Is
I
is
mean, what
virtual
we teach.
assistant itself like the skill set that's most in demand? Like somebody who's competent, that's intelligent, that's creative, that can just kind of help me with everything?
Yes, but there are some skills that VAs are typically hired for, and that's what I've put into my program, 90 Day VA. And that kind of stuff I can tell you is things like being able to write emails and email newsletters to somebody's audience. Because even if they only have an email list of 100 to 200, they should be regularly engaging with them. And that tends to be outside of what an entrepreneur could do in their terms of their bandwidth, even though they know it's important.
Right.
It can
Yep.
be creating simple social media graphics using templates that the client like gives you, or they give you the branding like, hey, can you go and make me a bunch of stuff? Because social media is like this monster that you're constantly having to feed. Being able to take, maybe they have a great blogs that they've made and they haven't really done a Pinterest strategy, and they just need you to go through and make a bunch of pins and then
Yeah.
get Tailwind set up so they can have Pinterest. So we teach a lot of that kind of stuff, like
Yeah.
video editing for YouTube, podcast management, like for my podcast, it's called Help Me Work Online, Esther. I record the episode and then that's it. And then my team does the rest of it. They do the show notes, they do the editing, they post it to the thing, they make me graphics to promote it, they promote it. Like I don't have to do anything. And that is what a virtual assistant can do for somebody. They just can take the content that the entrepreneur makes and they can do the rest. And it allows the entrepreneur, the business owner, I don't want to say entrepreneur and people think that it's like someone in the first 6 months of their business, because
Right.
entrepreneur could be making millions of dollars. It allows the entrepreneur to either work less, which is what their goal was to begin with, or it allows them to focus on the things that only they can do, which
Yeah.
is the recording of the video, it's the networking, it's the traveling to an event, it's the speaking. And so that's really what the VA comes into play. So somebody doesn't need to have lots of money in order to hire a virtual assistant. They just need to like have their priorities right, so that they know what kinds of things they shouldn't be doing and should give to somebody else.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, if there are any business owners watching, they're probably throwing their credit card at the screen, because what you offer is it's such a dream to people who are busy running a business and they have so many, plates to spin or balls to juggle or whatever. And somebody like you comes along, and not just you, but your students, your network, like you're building this really cool thing that is such an easy sell for business owners, because, everybody wants that person that they can trust to do a really good job with the overwhelming tasks of their business. And
Yeah.
a lot of people just don't know where to find it, like,
Yeah, well, I have a hire form and I will give you the link so people can pop their jobs in
perfect.
there. But trust is another thing that people really look for in a virtual assistant. So
Mhm.
I have one team member who has my Instagram password. I have another team member, two team members, that's it. And I have a pretty large team, probably 6 to 8 people. I can't ever remember because we have like interns that kind of come in and out. Two team members that have my credit card details for the business. So like it's taken me time to build up trust with them in order to give that stuff
Yeah.
over. But now, shoot, I have one of my VAs. She orders my contacts. She orders my groceries. She orders meal delivery. She has cleaners coming today to assess the house because they were going to do cleaning. Like she does all this personal stuff for me. And then I have somebody else who like answers a lot of my Instagram stuff when I'm sleeping. Like it's just being able to build up trust with people. And I think that once I can kind of tell business owners the kinds of things that you don't need to be doing most of the stuff you're doing in your life, they're like, oh my gosh, that gives me so much more time to do other stuff.
Yeah.
And then for people who are thinking of working online, they're like, I don't think I have any skills. Ugh. Well, can you order contacts for somebody? I'm like,
Yeah.
anybody can do this stuff.
15 to 30 bucks an hour, I think you could figure it out. Like,
Yeah.
that's great. Yeah, that's definitely a misconception that I had. I assumed most VA jobs were not going to pay very well. So I mean,
Those exist, but that like trend of hiring people in the Philippines and stuff, it's changing
okay.
because it doesn't work quite as well as people think it will, and it only works for certain tasks. So if there's like, if you have all your if you have customer service, for example, just answering emails, like I have an online course, right? So I have a customer
Mhm.
service person that answers that stuff. If unless you have all of the answers to the questions mapped out perfectly. This person's 100% know what they're doing. You've gone over it extensively with them. And they're going to work the opposite time zone as you. So you still have to hire somebody for the daytime in America. Like, it doesn't really make sense. So I
Yeah.
have an American virtual assistant do it who knows my program intimately. She's gone through it. She knows me and how I'm going to respond to stuff. She's building up the list of like canned responses so that she can go faster at it. Like, it's just different type of work. It's just a cultural difference. It's the type of like work ethic that's involved. It's just all different. And I also think that, like I said, we have Indonesian VAs that are making 15 to 20 US dollars an hour, sometimes more. And the daily living wage there, I know because I've been living in Indonesia, is only 8 US dollars per hour. So like
Mm.
they're able to their entire lives are different. And I think that as entrepreneurs, we want to be thinking of empowering other people around the world, not, well, how can I save $5 per hour? I'm just going to hire
Yeah,
this person. It's going to be inefficient and take me more
absolutely.
time. They're going to be opposite time zone. How am I going to train them? What if they have questions and I'm sleeping? Like, it doesn't always work. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with them. They're great for lots of stuff, but it doesn't always work. So
Yeah, I think the big two solutions, at least in my mind, I've only hired like one person ever, so I could definitely like learn a lot from this, even this conversation. But I did work for a bigger company, and I started out as kind of. Have you ever read the E Myth Revisited?
not yet. It's on my list.
Not yet. It's on your list. You'll love it. I think a lot of the stuff that you've probably learned organically from running this business and doing it yourself, you'll be like, whoa, yeah, that's definitely
Mm.
it. And it's cool to see that it's just a pattern in business in general. But one of the things that happens that business owners do is they hire a person. They gave him a name in the book, and I think it was Edgar or something. And they basically say, like, you hire Edgar, and Edgar is willing to take on all your tasks. You know, they'll take over all your spinning plates and whatever. And as the business owner entrepreneur, it feels amazing. It's like such a relief, like, oh, I have this person. So I was that Edgar for somebody, as in a business that was kind of a startup, and we got really successful really fast. But part of that was because the owner just kept like trusting me and giving me more and more things. Like you said, I was writing daily
Mm.
emails. I started doing JV relationships where I'd reach out with affiliates and talk to other business owners. I started going to conferences. Like, I basically did anything and everything. Kind of tech savvy, kind of started out like you said, little, I'm kind of creative, kind of tech savvy, and mostly just was willing to learn whatever,
Mm-hmm.
trustworthy. I was willing to, I listened to all the instructions and everything. So it was extremely valuable. Um, but that's pretty rare for people to find. So um, the
You
other
think
thing,
it's rare because
well,
you've been trying to look for people in the Philippines. But that's what
right.
I'm trying to say is like, it's not. There's all these women who don't want to be an entrepreneur. They don't want to start their own business. They don't want a full-time job. They want to work 5 to 10 hours a week, flex time, but they'll get it done by the time you ask them to get the thing done by. And so it works really, really well. And you get to help a mom, you get to help a military spouse have a career that otherwise wouldn't be able to. And it's also like something I've been thinking about too is it's not always about finding the cheapest price. It's
Yeah.
about like getting the best value and if it's
Yeah.
worth it to you. So is it
Yeah.
worth it to you to pay for someone who's going to be working in the same time zone you're working? Is it going to have nearly as many questions that you don't have to babysit and walk through stuff? Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. That's my sister's dog.
Oh, he's cute.
Dexter. Hey. Yeah, he's cute. Come here.
You gonna make an appearance in the show?
Yeah. He heard a car drive by or something. So
Oh, thanks, Dexter. Good morning.
um
There's cars.
yeah, so yeah, I think you're totally right. There's two solutions. One is try to like hire this one person that you can entrust everything into. The other is to hire somebody that you might not trust as much from like a Fiverr or something. And I think a lot of people just get stuck in the middle. So you and your students offer a really great solution that's in the middle. So I think that's amazing. Um, One of the really cool things that this line of work offers, like you mentioned a couple times, is being able to travel and kind of work from anywhere, right? Have you always wanted to travel, or have you always traveled? or was that something that came organically out of realizing that you could? Because you, like you
So,
said, you just got done living in Bali, right? And now
yeah.
you're in the US for a while.
Yeah. I have always been a traveler. That's always been my thing. I got the travel bug early. My parents took us to Europe when we were 14. It was awesome. And we went for a month and I think that was the first thing. And then the next year I went to Italy by myself with like a school group because I really loved it. And then I just kept going on these trips like all the time. I stayed home in college and I went to school locally because so that I worked so I could save all my money and go traveling. So I've always been a
Awesome.
traveler. And it's been amazing. Got to go almost all over the whole world. But when my husband was active duty, I married somebody who's in the military, and we were stationed in my hometown, which was like cool in theory, but I really got really antsy. And when I worked online, I'm like, oh my gosh, we can go do whatever we want now. This is great, but we can't because you're active duty, so we're stuck here. So my son and I still went and traveled without him. We went one summer and like went over to visit family all over. We went to Maine, Canada, and Michigan. I think we were gone for like 6 weeks. We're like, bye, Dad. Didn't have fun at work. So we still would travel. And then when my husband got out, that's when we decided to go on a big adventure, and we went and we based in Bali, and we used that to travel all over Australia and Asia. And then we've been there for 3 years, and our time there is kind of winding down. We've got some personal things that have changed about us, and that's normal and it's okay. And then my son and my husband, I think, are just ready to live in America again. Like, we just want to order Pizza Hut. Those are the worst. So yeah, so we're back in America for now, but we still don't really know where we want to live yet. So we're kind of traveling and staying for 1 to 2 months in different places to kind of see where we want to land. And that's where we're at right now, which is still really fun.
It's like typical digital nomad path, right?
Yeah.
Like you can go anywhere. So
Yeah, and I think people think that you can only do it if you're single, and it's not true. I've done it alone with my son. I've done it with my husband and my son. Like, me and my husband sometimes just take trips. Like, it doesn't matter what your life situation is. You just have to figure out the puzzle pieces to make it work for you.
yeah, that's actually one of my favorite episodes of your podcast so far has been the one where you talk to your son about what it's like to live abroad. And you also discussed, I can't remember if it was in that one or a different one, you discussed what it's like raising a child while traveling and working online. Now, I don't have kids. It's not really like, you know, part of my life, but I was really fascinated by some of your philosophies because I think you have a very like modern and intelligent approach to raising kids. Like one thing I really liked, and this isn't for everybody, obviously, but I think I would have loved it as a kid, is you make a point to go visit like cultural, um, you know, a castle or like all these
Oh
really
yeah,
cool things. Like
museums, temples. Oh,
instead of reading
100%.
about them in a book, you're actually taking your son
Yeah.
and showing him what other cultures, what other, historical events, like you actually get to live these things. And I think that's really beautiful. But could you talk more about some of, your philosophy? I know you embrace technology. There's like this whole world of educating while traveling
Yeah, it's
expats and
called
abroad.
world schooling.
Okay. Yeah. So
And there's an
what's world
expat
schooling?
culture of people too that aren't just digital nomads, but they just either want to live in a different country. It's so funny. I think Americans, or whatever culture you're in, doesn't have to be America, you're very like set in the way that you've seen life done.
Mm-hmm.
It's not until you start to leave and travel, live in a culture with other expats that you're like, oh, there's a lot of people doing different stuff. So
Yeah.
we lived in a culture, for example, both when I lived abroad, I taught abroad for a while in Europe, and then when I lived in Bali, where people are like, oh, I invested in real estate in the stock market, and now I don't really even have to work. And they're like 27.
Yeah.
And they're just like, so I just live wherever I feel like, and I like it here, so I'm just living here. So
Yeah.
you start to meet a lot more people like that. And so to cater to that culture, it's a third culture, they call it, expat kids and expat families, called third culture kids, is there's international schools around the world that all follow the same kind of curriculum. So you can have your kids in different schools. You can just go from different international school to international school, and they'll always be like on the same curriculum. They get like, it's called a GETSI. They get like an actual certificate when they're done, just like you would normal school. They also have entire online schools now. So the world's just changing so much.
Yeah.
that like if I didn't, I'm homeschooling my son right now, and I would say I enjoy it 75% of the time. The
Yeah.
25% is tough, but 75% it's awesome. And it's cool because you get to cater to what your kids' interests are. So he wants to start a podcast. So I'm going to make up a whole unit and we're going to start a podcast, and he's going to learn all this stuff about podcasting. He also wants to learn video editing. So I'm going to pay him from my business and put that into a college fund for him. And he's going to start doing like some video editing. He's 9.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So like, and then, like you were saying, so we're here in currently in North Carolina. I had my virtual assistant. I said, hey, can you research me 7 to 10 different activities that are local, they're educational, and that they're open right now because it's kind of cold right now. So she came back in. So we're going to go look at some minerals. We're going to go on some hikes where there's a big, huge old mansion here we're going to go look at. So that's like the kind of stuff that when you're traveling, you don't have, we slow travel. So we do stay places for 1 to 2 months, or like in Bali, we based there and then we'd go somewhere for like a week or 2. When you do that, you get really immersed in the culture, and you get to, like you said, you don't just have to learn about how people lived in the 1800s.
Yeah.
We're going to go to this old mansion that was from the 1800s,
Yeah.
and it's going to actually see it and learn about it. So it's amazing. A lot of people are doing it more than I think we realize. But yeah, there's a whole community called World Schooling, and people do it in different ways. This is how I choose to do it, but there's lots of different ways you can educate your kids while you're traveling, or just if you want to be a more world aware person. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want my kid to only know American culture. I want him to know about all different kinds of religions, all different kinds of food, all different kinds of ways of living. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think the important part is it's subjective to you. I mean, that's how you grew up with a fascination with travel. But yeah, some people, they'd be like, oh, that's not for me. That's fine too. But I really like that. I think it's very personal, and it's very like, Gary Vee has kind of introduced me to the idea, a different way of thinking about kids and technology, like learning how to do a podcast and learning how to video edit. That's actually probably really relevant skills for the next 10, 20, 30 years.
Way more than some of the crap that he has to do to meet like standards for the country.
Right.
Like just like stupid junk that's useless.
Yeah.
So I still have to do that because it's part of them getting a certificate and stuff. Yeah. But why not teach social studies unit and go and do the cool social studies things, or why not do writing? Okay, well, they have to learn how to do narrative writing. Well, why don't they do writing a narrative about topics that they're actually interested in, or that we're actually looking at and doing things? So it just allows you to, your kids are more engaged and more interested because the education is so much richer.
That's so cool.
It sounds cooler when I talk about it. I think I'm just so in the day-to-day of like, okay, we're gonna get up and like do our work, and once or twice a week we go on field trips. Like, I'm just like so used to it now that I forget that for other people, they'll ask me like, so what are you guys doing? Like, oh, we just travel full-time and homeschool our son.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I guess that's weird.
And one of the things I really liked too is you have pretty strict boundaries. Like you said earlier, being a virtual assistant, you can't just be like, oh, get it done when I get it done. Like, no, you have deadlines, you have clients to work with and all this stuff. So you actually said pretty explicitly that sometimes, like, if you just think you can homeschool and work at the same time, that just doesn't work. Like, you have a full-time job. It happens to be online and you can do it from anywhere, but it's still a job with deadlines and all this stuff. So you have to be really, that's why you're you seem to have become so resourceful with finding different solutions for each place that you're staying. Because some places you said you like the schools, so you like, he can go participate.
In Bali, he had a little school he went to,
Yeah, but then other places you're like, not really feeling the school here, or we don't have enough time or whatever.
Yep.
So it's really flexible, and I think that's just really awesome. It just
and I think people
just
eyes. Have to be honest about where they're at in their life. I talk about this a lot. If your kids, I have women who are like, I just had a newborn baby. Can I be a VA? I'm like, well, no.
Yeah.
You need some time. And then, it's a great time to educate yourself. Maybe you have an hour or 2 per day where you're just chilling with the baby and you can play my classes in the background. You know what I'm saying? But like, I think people just need to be honest. Your kids are only going to be little for so long. I couldn't work nearly as much as I did once my son was school age and was gone for part of the day. Oh my gosh, now I had so much more time. Yeah. Now he's 9 and we just homeschool for like 2 hours, and then he goes and like does whatever and I do my thing. So it's just, you're going to be in different life stages, and every life stage is beautiful and every life stage has different challenges. So just being honest with where you're at and not trying to like, well, Esther's doing it this way, so I have to do it. Like, no, you have to figure out what works for you.
Yeah. I think that's the answer to everything in life is what works for you. You know, like so many things are like, but what if I don't like that? Then cool, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Do it your way.
Yeah.
What if I don't want to be?
I think it's good to expand our consciousness. That sounds so hippie, and I'm so not hippie, but like expand our awareness. That's more me. Expand our awareness of how people are doing things differently, because you're like, oh, maybe I could try that. So as long as you don't try to force it, then try different things, see what works.
Yeah. Just being exposed to new ideas. I mean, just learning about the VA world has me thinking about a few different options that I never really knew about or considered.
Let's get you a podcast intern.
I mean,
3 months and she'll do all your episodes for you. Oh, I got you, man.
I got to get more episodes going. But yeah, that sounds awesome. Like, yeah, there's definitely some not glorious parts to running your own business. And some people genuinely enjoy, I mean, this is the part that I don't really understand, because you know, it's just not me, but some people really like to just handle all the like logistics and, you know, make things happen. I'm more like, I like coming up with the ideas, more like an architect, you know, like I like coming up with creative ideas and all this stuff and like thinking of the big picture stuff. But when it comes to like day-to-day execution, that's where I get lost. And
so I will tell you, I'm the same way now. As I'm more entrepreneurial. So the CEO, that's what I do, right? I give the big picture, and then my team goes and implements, and then I'm here to answer questions and help them deal with it, problem solve, right? But when I was a mom and my kid was 3, I don't have time to do a whole business and wait for it to make money and have big picture and really sit down and think, no, like I need something that I got 2 hours while my kid's taking a nap and I want to make some money. So I just go and I make some money and then I'm done. So it's like different life phases and different areas of maybe where your business is at will allow you to do different kinds of things. And then as my son got older, I had more bandwidth, I had more time, I had more energy and like understanding. Okay, so then I shifted into more of like a CEO, running an agency, growing my online course business, like doing those kinds of things. But it would have been so hard when he was younger to do that. So everybody's in a different kind of space. There's no right or wrong.
Yeah. Could you talk a little bit about Crazy Connie?
Crazy Connie, is that when I talked about that in my, the lady who talks in your head?
Yeah, no, you talked a lot about mindset, and I think that's really cool. You've said that you've hired a lot of mindset coaches over the years. You invest pretty heavily in your personal development, which is pretty awesome, and obviously a part of your success. But I'd never heard anybody say Crazy Connie. Is that something that you came up with, or did you hear it somewhere?
Yeah, I just named her that.
Yeah, so basically, my interpretation was Crazy Connie is the person who basically, you know, is your self-doubt, right?
Yeah. It's the voice in the back of your head that it can come as imposter syndrome. It can come across as fear. It can be your brain going into doing something new and your brain is trying to protect you. And it's like, this is scary. Let's not do it. And then she just gets to talking. It's the part of your brain that's telling you you're not creative. You don't know how to do that. You don't know how to write. You were terrible at that in high school. And it doesn't always sound like an actual voice. For me, it does. But it can also be feelings. And then you're interpreting the feelings. So one of the things I've learned from books and my mindset coach is to give that voice a name, because it's never going to go away. It's always going to be there. And then when they show up, I'm like, oh, hey, Con, welcome to the party. Glad you're here. I'm just going to sit you in the back. You do your thing. And I'm going to keep driving. I'm going to keep going. And I'm glad you're here. Thank you. Because you're trying to protect me and keep me safe. Glad you're here. Put your seatbelt on. We're going to keep going. And that I actually just added mindset videos into my course less than a year ago. And we started doing more podcasts and YouTube episodes just recently. And it was because I had so many students that were getting stuck. They weren't able to progress past like the blog writing class. Like, this is so hard. I'm like, literally the blog writing is so easy.
Yeah.
And I write down step by step and I really explain it really well. I have a walkthrough video where we can do it together. But because they have this thing back here, like, you've never written in years. You don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
Why are you stuck? But they just quit before they even can make it through. And I see the same thing. It's so funny. My son is the same way in homeschooling. And it's amazing to watch. As kids, we've been doing the same thing. That voice is never going to go away. It's always going to be there. You just learn how to ignore it better.
That's so cool. Yeah, I definitely experienced that a lot. I mean, I got into YouTube as just a way to make money. You know, I took a course and I was like, okay, this guy says I can make money with YouTube. And so I started making YouTube. I didn't grow up with YouTube or whatever. Like, I'm too old to have grown up with it, but like, I haven't even participated in it over the last 10 years as it's grown. And so I wasn't used to how it worked, but I really enjoy it now. The biggest thing that stops me from creating videos though is my version of Crazy Connie. Like,
did you name yours? What's yours name?
I haven't named it yet, but maybe we should do it right now. Like Boorish Brad or something. Or I don't know, like Naysayer
You'll think of your
Nelly.
own name. A lot of times it'll be like the name of someone you used to hate when you were in school or somebody that you're just like, oh, the person was the worst. They're so mean to me. You can give them that name.
Okay. Yeah. It wouldn't make sense to call him Brad. That would be pretty rough. But yeah, I'll work on that. But definitely that comes up. Yeah. The imposter syndrome. You know, I'm not successful enough, or I'm not, you know, whatever enough, creative enough. People don't care. Somebody else has already done it. Like you mentioned that on one of your podcasts, like just an honest thought that you had, like, oh, there's other people teaching how to become a VA. Why would people take my course?
Yeah.
And that I run into that so much, especially in like the marketing space. There's so many marketers marketing to marketers. And it's like, oh yeah, even though I have 10 years of experience and I've worked for these huge companies and I've met, you know, a lot of the people that other people look up to, I don't think that myself. I'm like, yeah, but who would want to learn from me when they can learn from that person who's way better at it and way flashier and stuff. So really appreciated that lesson. And I'm glad you talked about it. I think that mindset stuff is like, after you give somebody, you know, I have courses too. And I experience the same thing. Like, it's crazy how you'll see people start, they're so excited when they start and then they just drop off, and you think, and then if you ever follow up with them, which it's usually an uncomfortable kind of thing where they're like, oh, why are you following up with me? You know, because they feel like they're being exposed, but it's like, hey, why did you stop? Why didn't you keep going? And you get into all this stuff that's so much deeper than the tactics or the strategies. It's like, it's self-esteem, and we all lack self-esteem. I think, I'm pretty sure most people do in certain areas. So anything that we can do, like having that strategy of naming your self-doubt, is going to be super impactful. I mean, that affects everything. So,
well, once I put those so what we did was we looked in our course and we looked where people were struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I did. And then I was like, okay, here's where they're having issues and here's what I think the issue is. And that's where I started sprinkling these kinds of videos. And I have to like mask it as something other than like mindset videos, because there was like mindset videos. Like, I'm not gonna watch that. That was like weird. So I totally call it something else. And I can tell you it's like night and day. We have students that had dropped off the program for like 2 years, and they're like, someone just messaged me this morning, actually. I don't remember her name. And she said, oh my gosh, thank you so much for bringing the new mindset videos. And I just logged in after 2 years, and now I realized why I stopped 2 years ago, and I'm back in it again. And every day students are like, oh, I'm so glad I just watched this one, and here's what I did, and here's how it's helped me. So it's made a huge difference in our student success rate, because that's really what I care about. I don't really care that you bought my course. I care that you're going to do the course as much as you need to do so that you can get a job. And then I care that you get a job. So for me, whatever I need to do to tell you, to help you to keep getting through it, that is what my job is. And it's made a huge difference. So it really goes to show you how much the brain piece of it plays into this journey. Otherwise, this is why people get stuck at careers they hate for 20 years.
Right.
Because they didn't believe they could do anything else, because they didn't think that they would ever be able to find something that paid them as well. Like all this crap. So they're going to keep working there until they die. That's it.
Yeah.
But if we don't want to do that, then we have to be able to work on that stuff to get out of those patterns.
Do you share like some of the mistakes you've made? Is that the kind of thing that you find like helps people through those blocks? Or is it more like just reframing something in a way to help them understand it in a different
It's that.
perspective?
And it's also that my students typically have never done anything like this. They're not in the entrepreneur space. So a lot of them don't know what imposter syndrome is. They don't know what self-doubt is. They don't know that when you do something new, that it's going to feel scary and that's normal. They don't know any of this stuff because they're just like normal moms, or they're just normal at a normal job. Like, entrepreneurs, we tend to be in that space where we're just constantly like, I'm looking at Gary Vee today and this other person today, and I'm just constantly feeding my brain and I know how important it is. But most people aren't like that, and they don't know. And so a lot of times it's just sharing, hey, this is what's probably coming up for you right now. And if it is, here's how to deal with it.
That's
and so I just kind of pinpointed some of that stuff. And yeah,
but doing it systematically, like putting it in the perfect place when they're going to hit that obstacle, because you've had enough people come through your programs that you can see these patterns. You're like, why is everybody getting stuck on that thing? That's so funny. Yeah, I've done that with my Bing Ads course as well. I've seen, the first round, a lot of people were satisfied, but then a few people would be like, why are the videos so long? So then it's like, okay, well, I'll go through and chop out the long videos and put them into tiny pieces. And then some people would be like, it's too complicated. And I'm like, okay, I'll put in a quick start guide so you can, kind of give context. And then some people are like, why don't you just talk about this? I'm like, okay, I got to go put that in the course.
Yeah.
So it's really cool.
I learned that. I worked in product development for a little bit in software. They're never done. They're always like in progress, and you're always wanting to see what's preventing my students from being successful and then make something to like bridge that gap. We didn't have a handbook, like a welcome kit for when people joined. I've been running this course for years. We just made one like a month ago. We're like, man, when people enroll, they seem to be confused despite the welcome videos, despite the copy, like it's just too much. So like, all right, what can we do? So we made a little handbook, and now we don't have as many questions in the Facebook group. People are feeling more confident when they get started. So you're just constantly tweaking your stuff like that. I think sometimes we never want to be the entrepreneurs or the business people that are just trying to sell our courses, sell. And we're not focusing on what the journey is for the people who've purchased from the moment they purchase all the way until they've hit that success mark. What is each step of that? And it's constantly going to be tweaked. Technology changes, people change, time changes, you get more feedback, and that's okay. That's part of product development.
Yeah. We've been on for quite a while. We can wrap up soon, but a couple other things I wanted to talk to you about. One is I really, really liked, this message has been coming up for me a lot lately, similar to the subjective nature of like, what do you want to do? How do you want to raise your kids? How do you want to build your business? And, living into that, you talked about, I think you emphasize it a lot, actually. It must be really important for your students, but finding the right type of people to work with. Like you talked about thinking of yourself as the virtual assistant or as the service provider and the client or the business as puzzle pieces, trying to find the right puzzle pieces to go together. Cause just talk a little bit about that. Cause I think that's really important. I guess a lot of people come in, they just want money, right? And you do speak to that, there's a space for that, but also that's not where you want to hang out forever. Can you tell us why and what your solution that you've kind of come up with has been?
Yeah. So I have a lot of students that are like, I'd love to be a virtual assistant. Well, they're not students, they're potential students. Like, I'd love to be a VA, but I can't afford to join your program. I don't have any skills. What can I do? And so I'm always like, great. Here's a bunch of places that are hiring customer service reps, people that are hiring for transcription, but you're never going to make more than 15 per hour. So when you want to make more than 15 per hour, come see me and I'm going to help you get going right away. And 15 per hour is like the max. You're probably going to be stuck at the 10 to 12, just to be honest. And that's like, you still have to pay taxes on that. So don't even get me going. And that's fine. If money is your biggest thing right now and there's just nothing else you can do, then I can help you solve that. Go for it. But I want people to think bigger than that, because that's just like putting a Band-Aid on a problem. The real problem is that you want to have a fulfilling career, something you enjoy to do every day, something that's flexible and allows you to work around your family's needs or your life needs. And you want something that's going to pay you enough that you're not just in survival mode and that you're actually enjoying and living your best life. And this is the funniest concept. People will message me like, I need to work full time. Are there full-time jobs for VAs? And I'm like, do you need to work full time? How much money do you need to make? $2,000 a month. Okay. Well, what if you could make more per hour than you're making now and just work less from home?
Yeah.
Well, I can't fathom that. And then I'm like, and what if, is what I did, you could move to Asia, so then you can work even less.
Right.
Because the cost of living is so much lower.
Yeah. Your minimum isn't 2,000, it's 1,200.
Yes.
Or something like that.
And it allows you to work on whatever this other passion project, or just be a mom and homeschool your kids, whatever the thing is that you're wanting to do on the side. So it's changing. It's such a big mindset change from a traditional way of thinking about work and life, and transitioning into thriving and living our best life and doing what we enjoy. And then on the client side of it, that's transitioning from, I'm just a customer service person working for $10 per hour from 8 to 2 every day or whatever, to really like becoming a pivotal piece in somebody's business. Like my team members have been with me for years and I never want to get rid of them. I am obsessed with them. I love them. I keep giving them bonuses because I'm like, please don't leave me. And you want someone who loves you that much that they want to keep you forever and they want to pay you well and they plan raises for you in their company budget. They're excited to send you on trainings. Like you want someone who you are that piece for them. And it's not all people that are like my, right hand virtual assistant. Like that's how all my team members, that's how I feel about all of them. So that's the kind of client that you ideally want. And it may only be for a few hours per week. That's okay.
Right.
Still, you're still super important to them and they never want to let you go. And they're willing to pay you a decent amount or more so that you can do your job well. And like, it's like night and day from, I'm just going to do transcription for $10 an hour and just work up 50 hours a week. Like, they're like two completely different things. And so this is the one that I really want people to start working towards.
Yeah. It's a higher level of thinking. And hey, when you're in that survival mode and you just need to make money, it's not about like finding the perfect fit, whatever. But as soon as you meet that need and get over that and get the survival needs met, then it is time to think like, long term or at least medium term, like where do I, how can I optimize this? Do you have, I know you market to women specifically, but do you have men come into your course as well? Yeah.
We do. We totally do. I think we have between 5 and 10 and they're actually like pretty active. And I think they're doing well. I haven't heard from them. They're not as active in our group. I've thought about adjusting some of our branding. Like we've tried to bring in more green and we've tried to not be so girl power and girl bossy, but it's not just like, it's like how a lot of my students are too. So I'm kind of just reflecting back to them what they like to see in our brand. But like, we get this question almost every day too. Like, is it okay if my husband joins? I'm like, yeah. It's totally great. Do it.
Yeah. It's just a skill set and it's just a business. I mean, anybody can do it, but I mean, I personally wouldn't think that you need to change your branding at all. I mean, I don't know. One reason is there's such a strong female presence on Instagram, and that seems to be, is that your biggest following on Instagram?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, actually, yeah.
Is that how you built?
Just like in the last like year. It's crazy.
Really?
Really fast. Yeah.
That's awesome. How about age range? Like what's the youngest and oldest students that you've had?
So our youngest students are people that are still in college.
Okay. Which seems like a perfect gig.
Yeah. And they also get really disillusioned with college. Someone posted recently in our group. She's like, we have a problem. I am learning 100% more in 90-day VA than I am in college. Yeah. And I want to quit. We have people that have business degrees and then they come into 90-day VA or like and marketing and stuff. And they're like, I've learned more in your course than I did in my 4-year degree that I paid thousands of dollars for. So it's a little bit of it can be a little trippy for some people.
Yeah.
And then we have like just really young girls in their early 20s that they maybe took a year off and they're not sure about college and they're traveling, they're digital nomads and they want to like keep traveling, or they're stuck in a job and they're like, I hate this and I want to do something else. I want to get out. So we have people as young as that. And then we have people probably as old as in their late 40s, early 50s even. They are caring for a family member. Their spouse is retired from the military. And so now they're like, now I can have a career. I don't know what I want to do.
Yeah.
Their spouse is still active duty and they still need something that's flexible. Their kids are all grown now and they're like, I have time. What do I do? Work from home options weren't really around when their kids were younger. So yeah, I mean, it's really all ages appropriate. And like I said, like nobody needs to have a background. You need to know what Instagram is, but like otherwise people don't need to be all tech savvy and fancy. That's the point of the course.
Right. Yeah.
So, but like same thing in virtual assistant, like anybody can be a virtual assistant. It's just learning the skills. Like people who know how to code didn't just wake up one day and they can code. They just learned.
Right. Totally. So how do you, what do you see yourself, like, what's your vision for this? I mean, as much as you want to share, like, where do you see this going? Obviously it's already changed from a way for you to make money personally to then helping your friends or whoever's around you, your associates, and now helping, students from the internet. And now you've built an agency. you're building this like network, this machine of like competent, capable, and high-minded entrepreneurial people. Like, where do you think this is all going?
So personally, for me, I already feel like I'm living my best life. So 2 years ago was when I hit it. I was working part-time, making a full-time income, living in Bali and traveling as much as we wanted. I had staff who worked for me. Like, I was doing it. So I already am in 2 years into like living the dream. So personally, I feel like I've made it. But with my like students wise, what I really, it's already happening, is I want my students to start running their own agencies, more of them, and start hiring from within our program. So it is happening. Just now, like we now have enough students that have been working in here long enough that they're ready to start hiring more people to work for them because they're growing so much. So that's really what my vision is that they'll start to come back to the group and be posting jobs for our students. And then I think that that's my biggest overall vision. And then I would like to also, we're going to do our first, well, it's our second, but it's like our first big retreat in the fall. And we're going to do like an event, I think. And I've been running kind of a higher touch coaching program, but we're revamping it and going to make it 3 months and more intensive. And so that's kind of the next thing that we're working on, so that we have, because a lot of our students just make money and have a lot of clients really, really quickly. Most of them do, who work at it. And so then they're like, okay, well, now what? I need more help to get to the next level. I don't want them to have to go to somebody else. So we're putting together stuff to be able to meet people where they're at with that. And we've thought about doing some more events. We do meetups all around the world, but we might want to do another retreat over in Europe at some point too. So one in America and one in Europe, like maybe every year is kind of what we're thinking, but we'll see. Events are so much work, and we always want to make sure that they're going to be financially make sense. Because like if we're not making money from doing it, it's like, what's the point? So we're always like, this will be our first kind of big venture into that. And so we'll see how it goes.
For a lot of people, I guess, having an event is like an excuse to go somewhere else, but you can already go wherever you want. Yeah. So for you, it's like the event itself has to be awesome.
Yeah, and they're a lot of work. Like there's so much work. So if you're not making like enough to pay your team to run it, you a salary to do it all, because the crazy long hours before and during, and make a profit and pay for the event itself, like what's the point? You know what I mean? And then exactly like you said, like I don't need a reason to go to live in Florida for a month. I can just go do it. So yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you, Esther. I learned a lot from your podcast and from our talk. So I really appreciate you. I laughed when I was listening to your podcast and you talked about low-key hashtag stalking people, because that's exactly how I found you. I typed in the hashtag digital nomad and I just started seeing some cool profiles, and I messaged you on Instagram and you were the first person who said yes. So thank you so much. Hopefully someday we'll look back on this and be like, that's the first time we met. How fun.
Yes. Yeah. No, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be part of anything that's going to help more people live a life of freedom, because that's exactly what it is. People say that a lot, but really freedom is getting to wake up when you want and then do what you want all day. It's pretty great.
I mean, to me, I can hear it in your voice. I mean, you seem like a genuinely happy person. Obviously you're a human being. You probably have your struggles and challenges and whatever, but you just seem like someone who really is living their best life. Like you.
Well, yeah, but life is always going to have issues.
Yeah.
But it's so much easier to handle when you don't have to stress about going to work every single day, and you don't have enough vacation time to take off to take care of your sick parent. You don't have enough money to fly to help them. Like it takes the stress out of stuff. So you're able to handle things much more gracefully, I guess. And it's not just like life isn't as stressful when you don't have to sit in traffic for an hour twice a day, everything is just, much easier. Totally. And I'm just really passionate about helping people, and getting to help more and more people gets me so fired up and so excited, because like you said, this life is a life of true freedom. And why wouldn't I want to give that to everybody else?
It's really beautiful. If anybody listening or watching wants to learn from you or work with you, what are the best places to find you?
Yeah. So Instagram, I'm really active on there, Esther_Inman. I just started TikTok too with the same name. I'm so cool now. And also, if you would like to I have a free class all about how anybody can get started as a virtual assistant. I go much more into detail. You can watch that at 90dayva.com.
Yeah. And I'll probably, if you're watching this on YouTube or whatever, there'll probably be links to it below, links to all those things. If you're listening on a podcast, check out the show notes. And thanks again, Esther.
Thanks for having me.
We'll talk to everyone later.